Okay, the next dinim, we finished basically, the practical dinim of teveling, immersing kalim in a mikvah. The next din in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is what's called pas palter, pasakum, bishalakum, cholavakum, and all that. Okay, so there's a number of different things going on here. Chachamim forbade a person eating bread that was baked by a non-Jew. What is the purpose? Why does the rabbi? It's rabbinic, but the rabbis forbid a person from eating bread that was baked from beginning to end by a non-Jew. What's the reason for that? The Chacham didn't want intermarriages between Jews and Goyim. So the Chacham said, he's going to bake your bread, you become friendly and all that. So the Chacham said, you're not allowed to eat bread that was baked by a non-Jew. But there's another concept of that, a sub-concept, that's called pas palter. Pas palter means bread of a baker. Bread of a baker means he's not baking bread for you. This the Chum said you're not allowed to eat bread that was baked by a non-Jew means if a non-Jew bakes bread for you, you know who baked it and he knows who's getting it, then there's a connection between the two. If you go by pas palter means a bakery made the bread. They're making thousands of bread. They don't know you. They don't even know you exist. And they bake bread. And now you're going to the store. It's kosher bread. And now you're going to buy what's called pas palter. So halacha says like this: if there's what's called pas Yisrael, bread baked by a Jew, which is as good as pas palter, and you can get it, so halachically then you're not allowed to eat pas palter. If you live in a situation where there's no bakeries, there's no kosher bakeries, there's no kosher things like that, cakes and cookies, so then halachically you're allowed to eat it, but many people are machmir that they don't eat it. Now this din doesn't only apply to bread. It applies to cookies and cakes and a lot of things like that. So just in a practical sense, people should just be aware. The big hechshedim in America, OU, OK, Chav all these things, when they give a hechsher on bread or on cake or cookies or whatever, like you find an OU on cookies or OU on cake or OK or Chav whatever, any of those basically big companies, they do not guarantee it as pas Yisrael. They go with the leniency of pas palter, because again, halacha says if you can't get pas Yisrael with the same quality, then you can eat pas palter. So when you buy OU cookies, OU bread, OU whatever it is, it's not necessarily pas Yisrael unless if it says explicitly on the container, on the bag of whatever it is, unless it says the packaging, unless if it clearly says it's pas Yisrael. Otherwise, it's not pas Yisrael. Only like the Hebrew hechshedim, the more frum hechshedim, like the Satmar Hechsher or Kron Heights Bezdin, so whatever it is, then they guarantee it as pas Yisrael. But otherwise, it's not necessarily pas Yisrael, it's pas palter.
Rabbi, but you're basing the halacha, so how do the Rabbanim differentiate from what you're reading in the text being that is this, you're making it sound like it's our minig, but you're clearly stating the halacha is pas palter is
pas palter, he says,
only in the case
V'yeshma I'm reading from Kitzur. Also chachamim lechol pas shalev dekchavim. Chachamim forbid to eat bread baked by a guy. V'yeshma kaimis, some places, makilim v'loikim pas minachtum ev dekchavim, from a baker, which is called pas palter, b'mokem she'ein sham nachtum shel Yisrael, where there's no Jewish bakery, or afilu yesh, even if there is a kosher bakery, but ein a pas yofe k'meizeh. It's not the same quality. Avu pas shabali batim sho'edik, but if it's a private owner, a guy, so you have a neighbor and a guy. Now, you have to understand, there's a lot of issues with bread. People think, what could be a big problem with bread? Bread is flour and water with some salt. The truth is, they put lard into it. There's a lot of treif ingredients, mamish treif, that could be put into bread. So you can't just buy bread. Even if you want to be lenient with pas palter, from a bakery, you can't just buy bread that doesn't have a proper hechsher, proper supervision, because there could be treif ingredients in the bread. But now there's an interesting shaila in halacha. What's the din if a non-religious Jew bakes the bread? What's the question? Because in many dinim, we learned, a non-religious Jew has similarities to a non-Jew, even though we said today it really doesn't apply. But other poskim, an interesting argument in halacha about this, because some poskim say, some authorities say, it really doesn't matter if the guy's not religious. Why not? The whole reason why the Chachamim said you're not allowed to eat bread baked by a goy is you might come to marry with them. But you're allowed to marry somebody who's Jewish and not religious, or their kids, or whatever. You're allowed. It's not forbidden to marry a Jew who's not religious. So therefore, they hold if a non-religious Jew bakes the bread, the whole original purpose of the decree doesn't make sense, and therefore you're allowed to. And other poskim say no. Bottom line is, if they're a real machalo Shabbos, they have a din like a guy. If they have a din like a guy, you can't really do it. But in today's world, they're much more lenient about it. Because as we explained already many times, and it's going to be relevant now at Bishul Akum and all that, so we're going to explain it again, that the din of Machalo Shabbos, a person who openly, publicly desecrates Shabbos, is not that practical in today's world, unless if you have a real yeshiva bacher that went all his life through yeshiva, and then he in spite turns away from Yiddishkeit. That he can have a din of Machalo Shabbos b'farhesya, a person who desecrates Shabbos publicly. Now, desecrating Shabbos publicly means a few things. Number one, he does it in front of 10 Jews. That means he doesn't care. It's not that he does it privately in his house, or he'll drive and he'll park around the block. Machalo Shabbos b'farhesya means he doesn't care. He's openly, publicly desecrates Shabbos in public. Even then, many opinions, the Darkei Tshuva brings down, even then many opinions say it doesn't apply because you could still marry such a guy, such a person, whether it's men or women. So number one, even if we would be Machal Shabbos. But the thing is today, most people that desecrate Shabbos are not called Machal Shabbos b'farhesya, which means a person who publicly, openly desecrates Shabbos in public. What it means is what's called Tinik Shenishba. Tinik Shenishba, we learned in the past, means literally a baby that was captured and raised as a goy. Like you had in Russia, the Cantonists. They used to kidnap babies when they were a few years old, and they took them to the Tsar's army, and they mamish raised them as goyim. So then, to say that those people halachically don't have a din of a Machalo Shabbos. Why? Because Machalo Shabbos b'farhesya means you learned about Shabbos, you know all about Shabbos, you really understand the sanctity of Shabbos, and you don't keep it publicly. No, if you know, the person does it. So today, most people never grew up learning really what Shabbos is all about. Yeah, they know Shabbos, they know it's serious, but they still don't get it. It's not in their DNA, so to speak, this concept of Shabbos. So therefore, b'chlal, they don't have a din. Most poskim, thank God, hold that today they don't have a din of Machalo Shabbos b'farhesya. Because if they would, you couldn't count him for a minyan, you couldn't give him an aliyah, you can't, he has a din like a total non-Jew, you can't give him anything. You couldn't count him for a minyan, you can't, whatever it is. But today we don't paskin like that.
Rabbi, if they make their money on Shabbos, can they give it as tzedakah to the shul or something?
You sprinkle,
no, I'm asking.
and it becomes Shabbos money.
No, I'm asking.
Kosher, you're a fish, you're a fish.
Guys are working, so he's still using that money. He's giving it. So
is that?
Are you allowed to have enjoyment enough from that?
Okay, there's a very interesting shaila. A guy that gambles. Okay, gambling as a profession is forbidden, right? As a profession, according to halacha, is forbidden. A guy that gambles, yeah, and he is a rich guy and he wants to donate money to an institution. Are they allowed to take it? Well, 1 minute. A guy that doesn't keep Shabbos, okay, and he works in Shabbos. So, but technically, you're not allowed to benefit from their money. So the question is, can you take money from him for an institution? So what's the answer to the question? The answer is yes. First of all, money is money, guys. It's green, no matter what you do with it. It's green.
Doesn't tell you where it comes from.
First of all, it's very simple. No, I've asked this question many times. The answer is very simple. Who says the money he's giving you, the only money he makes is Shabbos? There's other money that he has. Is he only making money from gas? There's other money that he has, or this money made other money, whatever. So who says, al pi halacha, according to halacha, who says the money he's giving you is the money he made only on Shabbos? Maybe he made it Saturday night, Friday morning, afternoon, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So halachically, you're allowed to take the money. What?
I think you missed my question, only in no disrespect.
I didn't know you asked the question.
When you said that all the hashgachas today, with what you're saying, how do the hashgachas find the heter, considering there's so much readily available, to still give like Stumers and all those?
Stumer is Oliver Shalom, by the way. You're talking about 50 years ago.
I'm giving you
Stumers.
You're paying attention. Entenmann's, all that stuff.
Staladora.
Staladora exists still.
It's all
yeah, but
it was always OU part, but it's not Pas Yisrael.
Right, but how do they?
Why? First of all, according to halacha, it's not kosher. Number one, it's not that it's not kosher. Secondly, there are many people that buy it where they can get kosher food, kosher bread. Okay, so Taka, a person living in LA proper, where you have a bunch of bakeries and you have a bunch of things. Yeah, ideally you should buy only from a kosher bakery, but not everybody lives in a place where there's a lot of bakeries, or they can live in a neighborhood.
So they're able to be a little.
So therefore, they're allowed to make it. Whether you buy it or not is not your business. It's not treif.
It's back to the dollar.
It's not nothing to do with the dollar. It's not true.
Why? Hashgachas get paid by the big factories.
You know, there's an interesting moral dilemma, by the way, moral shaila. They have. Okay. Now they have, everybody knows in California marijuana is legal. Okay. So now they have the brownies, all the various different marijuana things. Yes? So
Does it taste good?
CBD.
I'll let you know next time I taste it. One second. So now the shaila is, because the OU gives a hechsher on it. So there was a whole, okay. I don't know if the Pas Yisrael. I thought it doesn't matter. This is on tape. I really should be careful what I'm saying. But the bottom line is that, or there was sometimes during Xmas time, they would have these kratzmach candies, mamish in the goyish spirit of the holiday, and the place would give a hechsher on it. So people were saying, how do you give a hechsher on kratzmach candy? How are you giving a hechsher on brownies? I don't mean Schwartz. I hope it's like Schwartz. How do you give a hechsher on these types of things? The answer is, number one, people eat it, and therefore, if they're eating it, there should be kosher. They're not saying eat it. They're saying this product is kosher. So people are going to eat the Xmas type of candies. So therefore, they shouldn't give a hechsher. People should eat treif. So you give a hechsher. Not telling you to eat it. You eat it. Or there's another interesting moral shaila in the kashrus world, by the way. Somebody has a non-religious person has a bar mitzvah on Shabbos. They have a kiddush, right? Shabbos afternoon. And they want the food to be kosher. But they're going to have music playing, and they're going to have pictures, and they're going to have a million different things going on, which are desecration of Shabbos, right? So the question is, should a kashrus organization give a hechsher on the food of the kiddush because there's going to be desecration of Shabbos? L'pearl, they do. Why do they? Well, not everybody does, but most people do. Why? Because they say, listen, what does one thing have to do with the next? We're not saying that you can have music on Shabbos and you can mix dancing on Shabbos with music. We're saying the food is kosher. Let people, they're going to eat. Absolutely. Let them at least eat kosher food. So that's the moral, it is a moral dilemma, by the way. And many people already in articles writing, are you talking, how is it possible that OU gives a hechsher and the brownies and this and the, all these types of things. What?
In the case of a non-pastor, I asked this Shaila before you
a
few months ago. In the case of a non-pastor bread or mezainis,
right?
Does it help at all to bake it, further bake it?
Okay, so now the question, we're going to get to that in a second.
Like if they don't have any other options.
Okay, so now we have to learn first other dinim to get to this point. Okay, let me address this point, even though we're not going to be fully get to the thing of it. I'll give you another example, which will answer this question also. We learned by Shabbos there's a din of baking after cooking and cooking after baking, right? If you take something which is baked and you cook it, you're desecrating Shabbos. It's already baked, but there's no baking after baking, but there's cooking after baking, and baking after cooking, and roasting after cooking, baking, all these things, because it's a different type of cooking. So now the Shaila is, Avnei Taka brings down, what happens if somebody cooked food in the Bishul Akum, and then a Jew went and baked it. So the Avnei wants to say that because it's a new thing, and there's baking after cooking, so even though the guy cooked the first one, the fact that you're baking it now changes it. Because the din of cooking of a guy that we didn't get to yet, or baking, is only if a Jew didn't do anything in the process. In Shulchan Aruch it said when they used to have, not today's ovens, they used to have the coal ovens or the straw ovens, you used to throw in straw. It says if a guy turned on the fire, but a Jew threw in one straw into the fire, so he did something in the fire, it's called Pas Yisrael. And in fact, what a lot of the big companies do, by the way, today, they do it financially and they do it for halachic reasons. A lot of these big bakeries, some of them mamish work 24/7. These big companies mamish work 24/7. And even those that don't, but let's say the oven is off for 10 hours. Yeah? So they have a light. It's actually heat.
The heating elements.
The heating element that they put into the oven that always keeps the oven more than warm. Not baking ability, but it keeps it good and warm. And that the Jew turns on. And that's always working. So even though the rest of the oven is turned on by the non-Jewish workers, but the fact that a Jew put heat into the oven, that's what a lot of the companies do with a lot of...
Pilot light also, correct?
Pilot light also. If a Jew turns on the pilot light, in the restaurant, let's say, okay, now it's not so practical, you don't have pilot light so much anymore. In the big commercial ovens, you do, by the way. But what happens if a Jew turns on the pilot, and then the non-Jew turns on the fire? So because the Jew turned the original fire on, it's good. It's good like a Jew made the fire. So then the din of Bishul. By the way, Sfardim are more machmer. By Ashkenazim, if a Jew turned on the fire, the guy could do everything else. In the good old days in South Africa, the Yiddish women in South Africa would cut up Friday morning. They would turn on all the fires on the stove and the oven, and they would leave. And they came back. The shiksas made the entire Shabbos, challah and fish and chicken and soup, everything was made. And what was the problem? No problem, because the Jew turned on the fire. For Sfardim, that's not good enough.
No supervision.
Sfardim, no, people in and out in the house. But by the Sfardim, that's not good enough, because according to the Sfardic poskim, that you need not only to turn on the fire, you have to actually put the food into the oven. Which is, I'm not getting into that now, it's late already, but it's a big issue if they can eat in any of the restaurants, but we'll leave it at that.